Hello my fellow freedom builders and welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is a bit of an educational one. We are going to have a look at something called a short squeeze and how you can profit from it. Now I know it might be a bit nerdy this video, but I urge you to stick to it because there is a lot to be learned here and I'll try to do it as simple and as quickly as possible. Now there has been a lot of talk in the media about short squeezes and shorting of stocks. And what I'm going to have a look at today is quickly, what is a short trade, what happens in a short squeeze, and what makes the short squeeze even more crazy. First of all, we have to find out what is a short trade. Now, a short trade happens when we have an institution, a bank, someone sitting on a lot of stocks. Let's say it was Tesla stocks. And they're just sitting there and they're hoping for it to go up. At some point, a short seller enters the scene. This short seller contacts this holder of Tesla shares saying, I would really like to borrow your shares. I'm paying a lending fee. I'm actually renting the stock, but I think it is going down. So I want to borrow these shares and sell it to the market. That could look something like this. We have a short seller here at 270 thinking that the stock would go down. He or she is borrowing a ton of Tesla shares from some sort of institutions. In many platforms it can happen automatically, but they are borrowing these shares, let's say 1,000 shares, and they are selling it in the market for $270 each, meaning that they are getting $270,000 into their account. Now that is not their money yet, because there need to be a movement in the market. And luckily for this short seller, the stock drops in Tesla here, and at some point they are able to buy back the shares for $140. And that is 1,000 shares, so they are buying back for $140,000, and then they can give the shares back. That is what happens here. First, there is a short selling. The short seller sells the stocks into the market that they borrowed. They get the current market price. At some point, when the stock hopefully has dropped, hopefully for the short seller, they can start buying it back from the market, paying the hopefully lower price, and then return the shares to the lender. So overall, nothing has changed. There is the same amount of shares, they just borrowed it for a while, sold it in the market, and at some point they bought it back. That is what short selling is. And basically, I know a lot of people think short selling is bad, but basically it isn't. What happens is just that someone is speculating that the stock will go down. If it doesn't, if, for instance, they start shorting here, they will lose money at some point when they have to cover their shorts. Then there will be a buyer which will push the price further up. We'll get back to that in a second. But this is how shorting works. Now then, what is a short squeeze? Because that sounds like someone is getting squeezed, and they are. So I have borrowed this little illustration from something called Synapse Trading. They are a lot better at illustrating this than I am. So what is a short squeeze? Well, we have some buyers and we have more sellers. That means that the stock is falling in price, and this could be short sellers. It could also just be people having the stock that is selling it in the market, but in this case they are short sellers. They are pushing the price down. Now, then at some point something happens. It could be some good earnings, it could be rumors, it could be some competitors doing badly or whatever. But at some point, a surge of new buyers causes the stock to go up. I'll show that to you in a chart in a second. So a surge of new buyers causes the stock to go up. Now, what happened? As the cycle continues, there's a lot more buying pressure than selling pressure, causing the stock price to shoot up. Then we have some short sellers that are forced to close their position. In order to do so, they have to buy the stock, which causes more people to run into the stock, and so on. Let's have a look at a chart. Let's say, for instance, one of the stocks that I actually have in my long momentum fund portfolio and that have done very well. Now, this stock is in a short squeeze right now. Let's just bring out the arrows here. A lot of people think this stock is a really bad company, not making much money, and they were certain they were going basically bankrupt. So they were shorting it here. They were basically also shorting it here, and they were shorting and shorting and shorting. Now, at some point, this stock started to turn upwards, meaning that some of the shorters here had put in some stop losses, for instance here, which made the stock go up. It went down a bit again, but then it went up more, and all of a sudden the press, the media started to talk about the serious holding here. There was some Reddit groups, there were different forums where people start getting a hold of the news here. So that brought more buyers in, pressing the price up, which got these sellers really desperate because they were now losing a lot of money. So they had to buy the stocks quickly. Sorry, a lot of errors here. Buy the stocks quickly, which pressed the stocks up even further. And this is a cycle that can go really, really far. If we take a quick look at a chart, you may have heard of the GameStop stock. Let's just find it here. GameStop Corporation, which if we look back on a weekly chart here, you can see that went from about $1 and up towards $120. So that was 120x in a few months. And the reason for that is that the short squeeze was really, really tough. Now, what happened is, of course, that a lot of people had gone short. A lot of big funds, some of the really big hedge funds had gone short. So we were talking billions and billions that were short here. All of a sudden, there was this Reddit movement where everyone rushed into the stock. They really wanted to kill these big hedge funds, and that pressed the stock up. One of the things that went terribly wrong here was that there was a lot of floating short positions here, meaning that out of the amount of stocks that were out floating on the market, they actually shorted more than was available. That could look something like, let me see, here we have some short interest. And for instance, we can see the Carvana stock that I'm planning to do a video about tomorrow. They have a float shorted of 49%, meaning that half of the stocks right now are actually out being shorted. That means that when a movement like this happens, and we can look at the Carvana stock if we want to, since that is one of the stocks that are in place right now, then we can see that that is running really, really quickly up. It went from what, $6, $7, and now it is up at 46, and it could potentially shoot higher, even though the company is close to bankrupt. But that is because there are billions short in this stock, in the Carvana stock here, because people think it's a shitty company and it should go bankrupt. But all of a sudden, this run fast. People have to cover the shorts, which pushes the stock up even more. Everyone is talking about it on Reddit and Facebook and everywhere, which presses the stock up even more. And all of a sudden, everyone wants to get in. All the small retail traders helps pushing this up, and they are refusing to sell. So when a big shorter comes in at some point saying, oh wow, now I'm really under pressure, I'm really squeezed, I would like to buy a lot of stocks, 100,000 stocks at 46 here, they have the risk of not being able to buy the shares in the market because all the small investors are holding on to it saying, no, we think this is going higher, so you cannot buy it from us, which shoots the price even further up. So that is a really true short squeeze, and a lot of small investors are speculating in this. Now, going back to my little presentation here. Now, there is a thing that can make this even crazier, and that is something called far out of the money call options. And I put a picture of a nuclear explosion in here because it can really go nuclear on the shoulders here. Because let's have a quick look at an option chain. And I'll just explain quickly about options if you don't know that. Now, these are call options. I know it can seem a bit hard to grasp here, but call option is basically that you are you're buying the right to buy a given stock at a certain price at a given time. For instance, this is at the 18th of August, and if I want to be able to buy Tesla shares at 300, remember they are around 270 now. If I want the right to buy Tesla shares at 300 because I think it's going up massively in the next month, I can buy the right to buy the Tesla shares at 300 for only $3.70. Now, if the price go to, let's say, 320, then I have earned the $20 here. That is on 100 shares. That's $2,000, and I only paid $370 for it. So I have 7x'd my money here, something like that. So this is if I think the stock is going up. Now, far out of the money options are something where I buy it at, let's say, 400 or 450, something. When we look at the chart here, if we draw a couple of arrows in here, if it should go up to 450, it should go up somewhere here, or 500 up here. And you would think to yourself, now is that realistic in maybe not a month, but 2 months or 3 months? And most people would say, no, this is a big S&P 500 company. This cannot really happen. But if there are a lot of shorters speculating that Tesla should go down, and if they are starting to get squeezed, so they are forced into the stock, forced to buy the stock to give it back, that can push the price further up. Now, what has that to do with far out of the money call options? Well, there is a broker that administers these call options. And if, for instance, me and a bunch of my friends are buying these far out of the money call options here, let's say the 450, we can buy that for 6 cents. These are what is called low delta options, meaning that there is a very, very small chance, or the broker thinks so, the market thinks so, there's a very, very, very small chance that these will expire in the money, meaning that the broker has to actually deliver the stocks to me. So they don't have to put up a lot of margin when I buy these stocks. They may only have to put up 0.5% or 1%, where they actually have to buy a little bit of Tesla shares just to mitigate their risk. But what happens if this starts to run up quickly and all of a sudden it is at 400 and I bought my 450 here? All of a sudden, it is a lot more likely that the broker will have to give me actual Tesla shares in my hand when the option expires, meaning that to make sure they are not caught on the wrong foot, they have to buy a ton of Tesla shares to make sure that they can give me my money back on my out of the money call options here. I know it can sound a bit technical, but just remember that the more the price goes up, the more likely it is that the different option prices are being hit, meaning that the more the broker will have to buy home Tesla shares to make sure they can actually deliver these shares to me so that I can buy them at a certain price. Now, if me and 10,000 of my Reddit friends have bought far out of the money options here, let's say we have bought 1 million options out here where we can each buy 100 Tesla shares. That means that if all of a sudden the price goes up here or just getting close, the broker will have to buy millions and millions of extra Tesla shares just to be able to give us our shares when this price is hit, if it is hit. That means that the shorters, they are being stopped out with the stop losses, so they are getting into the market, forcing the price to go up. Then the media starts to talk about the stock, and Reddit groups and Facebook and Twitter groups, and they start to talk about the stock, so the price goes up. And all of a sudden, a bunch of brokers that have sold some far out of the money call out options, all of a sudden they have to go in and buy a ton of stocks to make sure they are not caught in this short trap as well. And that can really make the stock explode. And that is actually what happened to the GameStop corporation. That was a really, and in my opinion is still a really bad company. If you remember back in the days, there were these GameStop shops around. There were thousands of them around the world selling secondhand games and all sorts of merchandise from games and so on. But it was a stock that was about to go into oblivion. But all of a sudden, someone on Reddit, there was a group, and it's all history, you can find it on YouTube, but they started to pumping it and saying this is a short squeeze. And it was, and it pumped it up, and they bought some far out of the money call options here that they could get for about a cent on the dollar. And all of a sudden, the brokers had to buy into these GameStop corporation in massive amounts to be sure they were not caught in this short squeeze. So that 100 or 150x the stock in a very short time. And of course, a lot of us retail investors caught them just around here in 120 and are now sitting on massive losses. So to get back to the presentation here, just a quick summary. What is a short trade? That is when I borrow a share and I sell it in the market. If it drops in price, I can buy it back cheaper and I have made money. If it goes up in price, I am losing money. What happens in a short squeeze? Well, what happens in a short squeeze is that all the shorters have put their stop loss, and all of a sudden they have to buy back the stocks in a hurry to make sure they're not caught in this trap, and that makes the price go up further, hitting even more short sellers, and all of a sudden that starts some sort of circle of buying backs of stock from the short sellers. And then, of course, what can make it even more crazy? Well, that is when this nuclear option comes into place, when the investors are starting to buy far out of the money call options, and when the price goes up and the short squeeze getting worse, then the brokers have to buy back millions and millions of stocks from the market to make sure they are not caught in the short squeeze as well, making the stocks explode in price. There are groups today that speculate only in this. I have found this just on MarketWatch on short interest, where you can see some of the mostly shorted stocks. GameStop was at one point above 100% shorted, meaning that there were shorted more stocks than existed, which was one of the reasons why it all exploded. But there are groups today simply just speculating in catching these shares here. Lucid Group, Beyond Meat, Fisker, some of them are some really shitty companies, but that doesn't mean they can't go up 1,000%. I hope this made sense. As always, feel free to put your comments in the comment section below. And remember to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this. That's all for now. Until next time, take care of yourself and your money out there. I'll speak to you again shortly. Bye.